Hello. I'm gonna take you on a brief. I'm gonna take you on a brief journey. I'm gonna show you one of the greatest hoaxes that has ever been perpetuated on an entire planet. And that great hoax is that King James and the kings of Europe, uh, uh, leading up to 1800, actually leading up to 1873, 1876, were all black kings. We're gonna show you a few eyewitness accounts that validate my introduction. This image right here that we're looking at on our screen is an image of King Charles II. This image comes to you from the original South Carolina charter. He placed his image on the charter, his effigy. But you can see he's depicted as a man of color. Now look at this. This image of King Charles was taken from the Westminster Abbey. Abbey means my father in Hebrew, which shows you that these brothers spoke a form of Aramaic. But anyway, look at the texture of his hair down here. I took this wax museum picture of King Charles II, and I blew it up over here so you can get a closer look at his black lips, black skin, and this nappy hair that he possessed. But remember, King James was King James VI of Scotland. King Charles was King Charles I of Scotland. There was King Charles II of Scotland, the brother we're looking at now. King James II, the Duke of York, and King George the first and the second, and all the other Georges. If I missed them, those were German kings. You didn't get an English king, or what they call the English now, sitting on the throne of England to 1900. They don't teach you this in the classroom. Now look, here's King Charles II, a wax image of the brother. This is the memoirs of the Secret Service agent John Mackey. Now, John Mackey served under King William, Queen Anne, and George I. Queen Anne and George I. Well, George I was a German king. King William was a Scottish king. These are all black kings that were ruling in Europe during the slave trade, which is complex within itself. But we have a lesson where we show, when I come back, maybe my next piece, I'll show you the lesson called The Black Slave Masters of the Southern States. But right now, I want to focus on this. So this John Mackey was a Secret Service agent. This is a government document from that time, the 1600s. This document right here was published this book was published in 1733, again, running parallel with the North Atlantic slave trade and the colonization of North America, AKA the 13 black colonies. Now, John Mackey gives a description of the princes, the dukes, and the earls, and the noblemen of the Scots and Brits. Charles Lennox, page 36, Duke of Richmond, son of Charles I of Scotland, black complexion, much like King Charles. So he starts off with, hey, King Charles, King James' son, King Charles I was a black man, and so was his grandson. This is an eyewitness account of the government. John Lord Somers, brown complexion. Daniel, Earl of Nottingham, tall, thin black man. Charles, Duke of Somerset, master of the horses, black complexion. John, Duke of Buckinghamshire, Earl of Mulgrave, brown complexion. So far, the government is black, just like the king and the princes. Charles, Duke of St. Albans, page 40, first son of Charles II, black complexion, much like King Charles. So this Secret Service agent is validating the adjective of the color concerning King Charles and his children. And again, this is the offspring of King James VI of Scotland. These Scottish people were black people, totally obliterated and wiped from history. Check this out. John, Duke of Newcastle, black with a ruddy complexion. Heneage Fence. I always like saying his name. It's just Heneage Fence. Sounds like he's an evil person or something. Lord Guernsey, brother of Earl of Nottingham and the solicitor to King James II, a tall, thin black man. Earl of Featherham, a middle-statured brown man, and Ford Lord Grey, the governor of Barbados under King Williams, a thin, brown, handsome man. The government of England and Scotland at that time was a black government. And we're going to go further in this. If I was on the other side of this video and I was listening to this, I would say to myself, this is impossible. But the mounting evidence, it kills the brain fog that this could be impossible. This is very possible. This is a book, it's called A Description of the Western Islands of Scotland. It was in circulation in 1695, parallel to the slave trade, parallel to the 13 colonies. That was the whole intent of this presentation. These timelines are critical because the timelines line up with the eyewitness account. So these brothers went in and they went in to see what the people of Scotland looked like, and you ought to find this amazing that the king that translated your Bible from Hebrew, Latin, and Greek to English was a black man. Now, a description of the Scottish Isles, 1695. Look at my date. The complexion of the islands of Skye, brown complexion. The complexion of the islanders of Iran, brown complexion. The complexion of the islanders of Jura, black complexion. The complexion of the islanders of Colonies, black complexion, and the islanders of Giga, a black complexion. These are all Scots, y'all. Now, could have went a little further in this, but I only did, when you go and you get the artifact or you get the book itself, you'll see that it'll be pages with descriptions of these black Scottish people, of which King James I or the Sixth of Scotland descended from. Now, is there any more evidence out there that validates what's being said today, that proves that what my assertion is not outlandish and not as inconceivable as one would think from my introduction? Benjamin Franklin's essay, 1751, The Observations of Mankind. I think it is paragraph 24. All Africa is black or tawny. Tawny and swarthy meant black in the 16 and 1700s. There's a dictionary out there. I should have put it in this presentation, but if you have an issue with it and you respond to this video, I'll respond to you. Asia, chiefly tawny. A very famous apostle was born in Asia. His name is Paul the Apostle. Paul was born in Cilicia. Cilicia is modern Turkey now, and it was ancient Anatolia. 3% of Turkey is in Europe, 97% of Turkey is in Asia. Paul came from Cilicia, down in Tarsus, and he was what? He was a tawny man, or he was a swarthy man, or a black man. And does this definition, what's the word I'm groping for here? Benjamin Franklin is given his eyewitness account of the world order at that time. Benjamin Franklin says that Asia was black. Well, in the book of Acts, when the centurion was leading Paul to the castle and Paul spoke to him in Greek, he asked Paul, he said, "Are you not that Egyptian that led 4,000 men that were murderers into the wilderness?" Wait a minute. The word Egypt means black. And in those days, the Egyptian was a black man. So Paul was mistaken as a black Egyptian, just like Moses. But that's another lesson altogether. So he says, Asia, chiefly tawny, America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. All of America was black. That means the indigenous people were black people. The Indians were black people. There's no such thing as a red man. That was something that they concocted. You know, you could get red. Well, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to take that back because Esau was red. But the Indians, according to Benjamin Franklin, and we even got the eyewitness account from William Penn that describes the indigenous people or the Indians as being black people. But anyway, I'm gonna go a little further than this. It says, and in Europe, the Spaniards, Spain, Italians, the French, the Russians, the Swedes, which are the Dutch, are generally what we call a swarthy complexion. All these nations in Europe in 1750, this is 1751. Europe was still black in 1751. What does this tell me? This tells me that the 13 colonies were what? Were 13 colonies of what? Black folks. Now I'm gonna tell you something else about this. You go back and look at the original charters. The charters were issued by Scottish kings, black Scottish kings. Who do you think they gave the charters to? Black colonists. And we have another witness just as great as this. This is the eyewitness account of a German private by the name of Daniel Flohr. And we're reading from his private journal. And he coined it the Battle of Yorktown. 3 days later, on the morning of October 18th, English armistice was signed. Afterwards, the troops were free to inspect the damage that they had inflicted. Flora was horrified. Everywhere laid unburied bodies. They were all mourning. And it's critical that you understand what he means by the word mourning. The word moor or mourn was a medieval word used to describe black people. They called them Moors. They called the Muslims that overtook Spain. They called them Moors. This was understood. Now, there's a list of the armies that he saw that lay dead at the Battle of Yorktown. Germans, French, the Scots, the Brits, the Spanish, the English, the colonists, and the Haitians. Well, we know for a fact we could play like picking a cherry, like on a fast break in basketball, you stay down on the other end and wait for a rebound for them to throw it to you. We'll do the same thing with this list right here. Look at the Germans. Benjamin Franklin said what? The Germans were swarthy, that's black. He said the French were swarthy, that's black. He said the Spanish were swarthy, that's black. And the only thing that's left are the Scots. We know that the Scots were swarthy or black because we saw an eyewitness description of the Scots. We have the English, the colonists, and the Haitians. Well, we know the Haitians were black. So now we only got two groups down here that we have to put our finger on, try to figure out what's going on. Well, we know the colonists were black. Why? Because the colonists had been set up by King James, the Sixth of Scotland. He set up, I think, the Plymouth and the Massachusetts colony. These were all black colonists. King Charles I came back. He set up, I think, about 3 or 4 of the colonies. Don't quote me on that because I don't have my records in front of me, my research in front of me. But I think it was King Charles II who was probably responsible for 6 or 7 of the colonies, and then King James II, the Duke of York, and then King George, another black king. He founded Georgia. Well, he gave the charter for Georgia. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at one of the greatest hoaxes that's ever been perpetuated on the so-called scholars in the histories of the world. So when you send your children to these school systems, they get the lie that the 13 colonies were established by white colonists. No, there was black folk that came in here and did that. It was black kings that gave the charters. The history's proven, the eyewitness accounts prove it. Now, if I were you, there are 3 books that I recommend that will open up your understanding concerning this subject. The Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link. This is this book right here, in the Negro Question, Part 6, The 13 Black Colonies, and the Negro Question, Part 7, The Swarthy Memoirs. These 3 books, I designed each one of these books to take you to another level of consciousness in the catalog that I created. But these 3 books will open up your understanding. They're going to show you just how the colonies were established by these black colonists, and they're going to show you at what point that the Europeans begin to take over the Black kingdoms of Europe. And I tell you this, we got dates where we can show you when they first came across Hadrian's Wall, around 449, 450 AD. When the wall was built, 122 AD by King Hadrian, the Roman Caesar. And then we'll show you from one of their professors, Professor Boyd Dawkins, eyewitness, his essay or his presentation that he did at Collyhurst College, where he gives the exact year that the Black nations began to fall, right around 1876. And remember, within 1876, within was I think 1884, within what's 76 minus 84, 8 years later, you had the Berlin Conference. And after the Berlin Conference, they go down into Africa and colonize Africa. About 40, 50 years, was it 1884? Probably 30 years later, my math is off a little bit, 1927, they set up the League of Nations, the white nations. Then the white nations set up the United Nations in 1947. Then after that, they set up what? The European Union, the 10 toes. And then they set up NATO. This has been a sequence of steps that they've taken to maintain white rulership over the planet. And one of the greatest tools that they have used is what? The school system to teach these lies. Part 4, the Negro Question Part 4. I am the author of Part 4 of the Negro Question book series itself. The Missing Link, the 13 Black Colonies, and the Swarthy Memoirs. These 3 books combined will open up your understanding and give you that irrefutable proof that you need. And lastly, no, I'm going to go back here, because you can purchase these books from the Negro Question Bookstore.equid.com or the NegroQuestion.com, or you can get the books from Amazon. And one last thing, and this is something that I just started doing. My latest creation is this book called Genesis Volume 1, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. It's a 6-column book that I wrote that will teach you how to read, write, translate, and speak Aramaic Hebrew from the comfort of your home or a coffee shop or sitting on the beach or in your car waiting on somebody. The first column is the KJV in English. The second column is the KJV in Aramaic Hebrew. Third column is a alphabet column. The fourth column is a prefix-suffix column. The fifth column is a translation column. And the column that I love the most is the pronunciation column, where it'll teach you how to pronounce. So I hope that this brief presentation that I did today, I hope that it inspired you to do your research and maybe even inspire you to run to my bookstore or run on Amazon and buy my books. And one last thing, if you see anybody out there selling the Negro Question books, like my digitals or any of my books, you know, and if you're not purchasing from my bookstore or Amazon, let me know. God bless you. And I want to thank you for taking the time out to be with me today. I mean that. Thank you so much, and God bless you.